Let me tell you how this all started, quietly. Like most things that turn your life upside down. There was no thunderclap, no ominous music. It began in a Home Depot parking lot, if you can believe that. I was loading a 60-pound bag of lawn fertilizer into the back of my Ford when my phone buzzed. Not with something dramatic. No, it was a coupon notification. 10% off your next grill purchase. That's the level I was operating at, middle-aged, lawn-obsessed, grill coupons in the middle of March. The sort of man whose excitement peaks when the neighbor compliments the edge on his yard. My name's Nicholas Teller, 42, native of Dayton, Ohio. I sell residential HVAC systems for a living and, according to my barber, my hairline is holding strong. My wife, Angela, Angie to friends, when she's being cute, teaches 11th grade English at the local high school. We've been married 12 years, no kids, and until about 6 months ago, I would have told you we were solid. Not movie romance solid. Not the kind where you text each other all day with heart emojis and cutesy gifs. But the kind where you know when to give space, when to step in, and when to just shut up and let the other person decompress. Comfortable. Familiar. The kind of marriage where you could predict each other's sneeze pattern. Looking back, I should have seen it. Not just seen it, heard it, felt it, read between every sigh and half smile. But I was comfortable, which is just another way of saying I was lazy with the person I promised not to be lazy with. And Angela? She got quiet. Real quiet. But not sad quiet. Strategic quiet. The kind of silence that isn't looking for resolution. It's already made its peace with something. Something you're not a part of. At first, I chalked it up to her job. Teaching teenagers in 2025 is less a profession and more a daily exercise in social triage. I figured she was just burned out. She'd come home, drop her bag by the door, microwave some leftover lasagna, and sit on the couch like she was watching TV, but not really watching it. Scrolling endlessly on her phone, lips barely moving as if reading headlines in her head. Sometimes, she'd laugh at something. Not show me the meme laugh. Just a private, quiet chuckle. I asked once what was so funny. She said, just a student email. Right. There were other things, too. The laundry pile that started to get weirdly sorted, my clothes never quite making it back to the drawers, while hers vanished entirely. A wine habit that went from a glass or two on Fridays to entire bottles vanishing midweek. Oh, and the sudden interest in jogging. Angela hated cardio. Hated it. She used to joke that she'd only run if a bear was behind her, and even then, she'd probably try to reason with it. Now, she was waking up at 6:30 on Saturdays to jog, alone, in March. Still, none of that screamed affair. It screamed early midlife crisis, or maybe secret MLM hustle. I even wondered if she was writing a novel and too shy to show me. I'd have taken anything, over what was actually going on. But that realization didn't come in part one. No, this is the setup. The part where I still think I'm in the safe zone, where my biggest worry is whether or not the furnace inventory hits budget this quarter. Angela's phone, for the record, was never suspicious. She didn't clutch it like Gollum or run off to the bathroom like a teenager sexting their crush. It sat face up, unlocked half the time. And if you peeked at her messages, it was all PDA drama and texts from her sister about baby shower logistics. If anything, it was boring. Clinical. Sanitized. That was the first clue, really. Nobody's life is that clean, not even in pixels. But again, that's not how I found out. I suppose you could say the crack started on a Thursday. Angela came home later than usual, said she had to stay after school for some kind of faculty meeting. No big deal. I made us grilled cheese and tomato soup. Comfort food. Easy. She barely touched hers. Said she wasn't hungry, stomach felt off. Then she went upstairs and shut the door. Didn't say goodnight. Didn't say anything. It's a funny thing. When you've lived with someone long enough, their silence can be deafening. You can feel it coming down the stairs, hanging in the hall like a draft from a cracked window. So what did I do? Nothing. I watched reruns of Frasier and went to bed early. Because that's what you do when you don't want to poke the beehive. You ignore the buzzing and pretend it's ambient noise. But the next morning, I caught something strange. She left her laptop on the dining table. Angela never does that. She's weird about electronics and water, always terrified of spills. I didn't go snooping, not then. But I did notice something open on the screen. A tab. Google Docs. A lesson plan, probably. That's what I thought. Except it wasn't. From where I stood, I caught 3 lines of text before the screen dimmed. I still dream about that motel room in Columbus. You said you didn't care if it was wrong. I almost told him last night. The air left my lungs like someone had gut-punched me. I clicked the trackpad to wake the screen, but it locked. Password protected. Just like that. I stood there, hands cold, staring at that screen like it had just rewritten our entire marriage in 13 words. I didn't say anything. Didn't text her. Didn't shout up the stairs. I just stood still, the way people do when they're trying to figure out if they're dreaming. That's when it started. The shift. The slow boil that would turn into a storm. But I didn't go looking for revenge. Not yet. No. First, I had to be sure. Because if I confronted her now and I was wrong, even a little bit wrong, it would blow a hole straight through the ship. But if I was right, well, let's just say I'm not the sort of man who plays the long game. But I'm the sort who likes the last word. This is just the intro. The part where you think maybe he'll forgive her. Maybe he'll patch it up. Maybe love is enough. Trust me, it's not. And if you think you know how this story ends, think again. Because Angela Teller may be good at hiding things, but I'm better at finding them. And what I find next, that's when it gets good. I didn't rush it. That's the part I'm most proud of. Most guys in my shoes would have stormed up the stairs, waving their arms like traffic cops and demanding answers. But not me. No, I let it sit. Like meat before you cook it. You let the truth come to room temperature so it doesn't seize up the second you throw heat on it. Angela didn't notice a thing the next morning. She was back to her usual oatmeal and blueberries, sipping her coffee with that same distant hum in her chest, like a song she didn't want to share. She asked if I wanted anything from Trader Joe's later, and I said, sure, get some of those dark chocolate peanut butter cups. Like everything was normal. And I watched her head nod, saw her mind already skipping past me. It was never going to be her phone. I knew that. She wasn't that careless. But that laptop was different. Angela's school-issued MacBook had been her fortress of solitude, a place I wasn't allowed into, not by rule, but by tone. Whenever she worked at the table, she angled the screen just enough away. Subtle, but deliberate. Here's what changed. I remembered the password. Back when she first got the laptop, she made a joke about her high school mascot being the most ridiculous password ever. Trojans 22. She said it while we were both on the couch, wine-drunk, teasing the cat with a laser pointer. I laughed, filed it away, and never needed it. Until now. 2 days after I saw the doc open on her screen, I waited for her to leave for her 5K training run. 6 miles, she said. Out and back on the Metroparks trail. She'd be gone at least 90 minutes. I waited another 10 just to be sure. Then I sat down at the dining table, opened her laptop, and typed, Trojans 22. Boom. Desktop. No fireworks. No alarms. Just a clean login screen and a faint hum from the fan. Angela was tidy, even digitally. No random screenshots or desktop clutter. But the Google Docs tab was still bookmarked. I clicked it. There were dozens of files. Lesson plans. Grade spreadsheets. Class newsletters. And one document that stood out for one simple reason. It was titled Untitled Document. Rookie mistake. I opened it. It was a diary. Not a teenage. Dear Diary, I saw Chris from math class today kind of thing. This was a record. A confession. Some weird emotional dumping ground she clearly didn't think anyone would find. Here's what I read, entry by entry. March 3rd. I lied again. I told him I was at the school late for parent conferences. I hate how easily it comes out now. I didn't even blink. Lying to Nicholas used to tear me up. Now it's just something I do like brushing my teeth. March 9th. We were in the storage unit again. He said he loves how the risk makes it feel real. I told him we shouldn't keep using the same place. He said it doesn't matter, as long as it's not near Nicholas. He always says that. Near Nicholas. Like I'm a landmark he's trying to avoid. March 14th. He asked me if I'd ever leave. I said I didn't know. He said he's tired of waiting. That we've already wasted 2 years playing house with people we don't love. I told him not to say things like that. He said the only thing standing in our way is a signature. That word, storage unit, hooked me. Like a fishing lure in the gums. A storage unit? I sat there staring at it. Then I remembered. 2 months ago, Angela signed a lease for a small unit off I-675. She said it was to free up garage space. Old teaching supplies, she claimed. Boxes of yearbooks, bulletin board decorations, off-season clothes. I didn't think anything of it. She showed me the digital receipt. It was small, 5 by 10, and paid up for 6 months in advance. Cheap. Convenient. I never went with her. Why would I? I closed the laptop, left everything exactly as it was, and I started planning. Saturday morning, I told her I was going to help my buddy Matt install a ductless mini-split at his mom's house. She barely looked up from her phone, said, "Okay, don't forget your knee brace." That was it. No kiss. No drive safe. Just indifference disguised as routine. Instead of Matt's, I drove straight to the storage facility. I still had access to our joint banking app. Pulled up the receipt from when she rented the unit. The address matched the place off 675. Arrived 10 minutes later. Cold wind in my face. I went inside and gave the receptionist a line about needing to access my wife's unit because she was out of town and I had to grab her winter clothes. I showed her the receipt on my phone and a picture of us from last year's anniversary dinner. Angela smiling, me holding up a glass of wine. Her ring clearly visible. The receptionist hesitated but handed me the spare key. "Just bring it back before 5, she said. I nodded. Unit 217. Third row from the south gate. It looked like every other unit. Roll-up door. Padlock. Concrete slab floor. I opened it expecting dusty boxes, maybe a few teaching supplies. Nope. It was staged. Like a cheap apartment in a bad drama. A queen-size air mattress with gray sheets. A folding table with a Bluetooth speaker. A box of tissues. 2 wine glasses, matching. A phone charger. A candle in a jar that said Midnight Citrus. I stood there for a long time. There was nothing personal. No clothes. No notes. Just the residue of temporary affection. And that's what struck me. She wasn't having an affair the way TV shows portray it. No lipstick on collars. No perfume in the sheets. It was clinical. Transactional. Like a motel room they didn't have to check out of. That was worse. I took pictures. Of everything. Sent them to myself and deleted the sent messages. Then I noticed something else. On the table, tucked under the Bluetooth speaker, was a library copy of The Bell Jar. Angela's favorite book. Inside the front cover, a slip of paper. A receipt from a diner. 2 meals. Coffee for 2. Tipped in cash. The name on the card? Clint Waters. I knew that name. He was the facilities manager at Angela's school. Divorced. 2 kids. Rode a Harley. Wore sunglasses indoors. The kind of guy who said things like, "I don't do drama," and then created enough of it to fill a Shakespeare anthology. He was also 5 years younger than me and, according to his Instagram, really into CrossFit. I stood in that storage unit, holding a receipt from a man who'd apparently been sleeping with my wife. In a room she was paying for. With our money. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I locked the door. Drove home. Made a sandwich. Ate it. Then I opened a spreadsheet and started planning. Because now I knew. And Angela Teller was about to find out what happens when the man you lied to for 2 years stops being polite and starts doing the math. Here's the thing they don't tell you about betrayal. It's boring. Not the discovery, not the aftermath, but the hours in between. Those empty, grinding hours after you know and before you act. That limbo where you have to pretend your world isn't collapsing just to keep the advantage. I spent 3 days in that zone. 3 days of watching Angela pour her coffee, brush her hair, ask about the mail, all while knowing her mouth had been on someone else's skin less than a mile from our house. I knew the name, knew the place. I even knew what brand of candle they used to mask their cowardice. But I couldn't confront her yet, not without it counting. Not without making it land so hard she'd still feel the echo of it years later, in quiet rooms and grocery store aisles. She didn't make it easy. Angela was chipper. That's the best word for it. She had this strange, floaty optimism, like a person who's already decided they're quitting the job and just has to survive the last few shifts. I watched her laugh at her phone, watched her hum while she folded laundry she probably wasn't even wearing. And I smiled, nodded, asked how her day was. Inside, I was a loaded gun on the coffee table. The first move came Thursday. She told me she had a late book club that night. The lie was so lazy it was insulting. Angela hasn't attended her book club since they tried reading Eat, Pray, Love, and she ranted about performative spirituality for 2 hours. But sure, book club. I said nice. You driving or carpooling? She blinked. Just a half second. Driving. Brenda's sick. Of course she is. That night, I followed her. Not in some trench coat, noir movie way. Just casually. I waited 10 minutes after she left, then drove to the storage unit. I parked 3 rows down. No lights. No cameras in that section. Just cold gravel, and the hum of betrayal in the air. 20 minutes later, her car pulled in. Alone. She got out, looked around once, not paranoid, just careful, and unlocked Unit 217. Clint showed up 3 minutes after that on a motorcycle with all the subtlety of a high school drummer. No helmet. Just that smug grin and a duffel bag like he was checking into a weekend Airbnb. I didn't take pictures. I didn't need to. I'd seen enough. I went home, sat in the dark, watched old commercials on YouTube just to have something familiar playing. Then I made my move. Friday night, I told her we should go out for dinner. Somewhere nice. You've seemed stressed lately, I said, with a face so convincingly concerned it should have won a local Emmy. Angela hesitated. I saw it, just a flicker of calculation in her eyes. Then she smiled. Sure, that sounds nice. We went to this little bistro downtown. One of those industrial chic places with Edison bulbs and pretentious flatware. She ordered red wine. I got a club soda. She commented on the weather. I nodded. About halfway through the appetizer, I dropped the first piece. So, Clint Waters, I said, twirling my fork. He's still working maintenance at your school? Angela froze. Just a beat too long. Then, yeah. What? No reason. Just, he posted something funny on Instagram. About the school's leaky HVAC. Thought you'd appreciate it. Oh, she smiled, but her hands were stiff around the stem of her glass. Yeah, he's always complaining about that. I nodded. Took a bite of my salad. You ever talk to him outside of school? Another pause. Shorter this time. Not really. What? I let the silence fill the space. Just let it breathe. Then I leaned back and smiled. Just curious. She didn't touch her wine the rest of the meal. The next day, I made the confrontation official. I called a locksmith. Now, before you get ahead of yourself, no, I didn't lock her out. This wasn't about brute force. It was about presentation. I had the locksmith change the lock on the door to our basement office. It's where I kept all the boring adult stuff. Taxes, insurance, car titles, marriage license. But I also had something new in there, a binder. Labeled Angela, Open Secrets. Inside, photos of the storage unit. The receipt with Clint's name. A printout of her Google Doc diary. Yes, I emailed myself a copy. The security log from the storage unit showing dates and times. A printed note with one line. You lied. Repeatedly. Thoughtfully. Without guilt. I left the binder on the office desk. Locked the door. Then I waited. Sunday afternoon, I handed her a key. Just one. The office, I said. I reorganized some stuff. Thought you'd want to take a look. She looked confused but took the key. 5 minutes later, I heard it. The door creaked. Then silence. Then footsteps. Fast ones. Up the stairs. She didn't look furious. She didn't even look surprised. She just looked tired. Angela stood at the top of the stairs holding the binder like it weighed 40 pounds. Her face was blank. I could see her toggling between fight and flight in real time. You went through my laptop, she said finally. I nodded. You left it open. That was sloppy. She blinked. You followed me. Another nod. Also sloppy. Her voice cracked. You planned this. I stood. Calm. You planned it first, Angela. You just didn't plan for me. She looked down, clutched the binder to her chest like it might protect her. So now what? You want me to confess? Cry? Apologize? I tilted my head. No. I want you to sit down. She hesitated. I'm not yelling, I added. I'm not throwing things. I'm not even mad. I'm just done pretending. So sit. She sat. I know about the storage unit. I know about Clint. I know about the diary. And I know you were never going to tell me. Her eyes welled. No, I cut her off. This isn't the part where you explain. This is the part where you listen. I took a breath. My chest was tight, but steady. You cheated. Not in a fit of weakness. Not one night. But over months. With planning. With effort. That's not a mistake, Angela. That's a campaign. She looked down. The tears came, but I didn't flinch. I'm not going to beg you to stay. And I'm not going to fight to keep someone who doesn't want to be here. So here's what's going to happen. I slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed documents, a separation agreement, financial breakdowns, a list of next steps. We're going to do this cleanly. Quietly. No drama. No social media sob stories. You'll keep your dignity. I'll keep mine. She opened the folder. Her hands were shaking. I stood up. You can sign today, or you can take a few days to think about it. But if you don't sign, I'll file. And then Clint's name becomes public. Your job might take an interest in that. Her face went pale. This isn't revenge, Angela. This is consequence. And with that, I walked upstairs, closed the bedroom door, and for the first time in months, I slept without a pit in my stomach. Because I wasn't the fool anymore. And the next part? That's when I get smart. Revenge isn't about rage. It's not about yelling or breaking things or burning it all down with a gas can and a bad temper. That's amateur hour. That's how you lose. Real revenge is elegance. It's timing. It's making sure the other person looks down one day and realizes they've been standing in quicksand, and that you're the one holding the rope, deciding whether to toss it or watch them sink. Angela signed the papers 2 days after our confrontation. No big speech. No messy tears. Just a dry click of the pen and a long silence. She slid the folder back across the table and said, "I guess I deserve this." I didn't reply. What was I going to say? "Yeah, you do." She already knew. But signing was just step one. The real move came after. See, I'm in HVAC sales. People think that's boring. And to be fair, it kind of is. But it comes with one very useful perk: access. I spend my days in homes, schools, offices, poking around ceilings, attics, and closets. And I know every commercial building manager in a 30-mile radius by first name, including the guy who oversees Angela's school. Jim Maynard, 60-something, Vietnam vet, played golf like it was a contact sport, loved old jazz, and hated Clint Waters. I took Jim out for lunch the Thursday after Angela signed the separation documents. Over chicken parmesan and bad diner coffee, I dropped one line. "You ever hear rumors about Clint messing around with staff?" Jim leaned back, narrowed his eyes. "That guy? He's a walking HR violation." I smiled. "Thought so." That's all it took. 2 days later, Clint was asked to resign. No official scandal. Just a quiet parting of ways and a generic "pursuing other opportunities" email. But he was out. No pension, no references, and definitely no more access to room 217. I didn't stop there. Angela had always wanted to buy her own place, said she dreamed of a little condo downtown, somewhere walkable with character. She had her eye on a pre-war building with exposed brick and overpriced parking. We talked about it a year ago. I remembered. So I bought it. 3 days after she signed the separation papers, I made a cash offer through a shell LLC. Closed in less than a week. I never moved in. Didn't even furnish it. Just had the locks changed and the mailbox removed. Then, the next time Angela came by the house to pick up her things, I left the real estate flyer on the kitchen counter. The one she'd printed off Zillow. The one with the units circled in pen. She picked it up. This is mine." I was going to. "I know," I said. "That's why I bought it." She blinked. "Why?" "Because I could." That's when she started to cry. Not a meltdown. Not begging. Just quiet, stunned sobbing. Like someone who's realizing the elevator cable has been cut and there's no emergency brake. But my favorite part, the piece de resistance, was what I did to the storage unit. I didn't cancel it. I didn't lock it up. I renovated it. I cleaned it out, scrubbed the floor, repainted the walls. Then I turned it into a little reading nook. Brought in a mini bookshelf, some floor cushions, a lamp, and a sign on the wall that read, "Lies live short lives." Then I posted it online as an art installation on intimacy and decay. Gave it some pretentious name, Unit 217, a study in temporary attachments. I submitted it to a local arts magazine under a pseudonym. They published a piece. It got picked up by a few blogs. Suddenly, the unit that had once hosted my wife's infidelity became a curated space visited by grad students and bored creatives with too much time on their hands. Angela saw the article. She had to. I made sure of it. I left a copy in the mailbox the last time she swung by. She didn't say a word. I think she knew if she brought it up, I'd only smile. Now, you're probably thinking, "Nicholas, wasn't that enough?" And yeah, for most people, probably. But I wasn't done. Angela had told her family I'd grown distant, that I shut down emotionally, that our marriage just slowly fell apart. She laid the groundwork before she lit the match. Classic stuff. So I corrected the narrative. I didn't start rumors. I didn't post online. I mailed copies of the binder, lightly redacted, with a cover letter written in the tone of a disappointed friend, to her parents, her sister, and her best friend Stephanie. Just a few highlights. Nothing crude. Just enough to clarify the timeline. Angela found out within 48 hours. She showed up on my porch, shaking with fury. "You mailed my family?" I leaned on the doorframe. No. I corrected a record. You're making me look like a villain. You made you look like a villain. I just included footnotes. She stood there for a moment, then said the one thing I wasn't expecting. I still love you. I laughed. Not cruelly, just honestly. No, Angela. You don't. You love getting away with things. That's not the same. She didn't argue. Just turned and walked to her car. I watched her drive off. Felt nothing. And that, right there, was the real revenge. Not the binder. Not the job loss. Not the condo. The silence. The absence of regret. The calm that comes from knowing you were right, and that you played it better. Cleaner. Smarter. Clint never reached out. He knows better. His kind always do, when the dust settles and they realize their opponent wasn't a pushover in khakis. Angela, last I heard, was staying with her sister. Trying to reset. Me? I bought a second condo. Not to live in. Just to have options. And I took a trip. Seattle, then Portland. Got an old friend to house sit and water the ferns. I didn't tell anyone I was leaving. Just packed a bag and drove. And somewhere around Mount Rainier, standing on the edge of a freezing overlook, I realized I didn't feel bitter. Not even a little. Because Angela Teller had made her bed. And I made sure it was inflatable, windowless, and echoing with her own choices. Now we get to the part where people start asking, "Are you okay?" And the truth is, yeah, I'm better than okay. Because I didn't just survive it. I owned it. I didn't expect to see her again, not really. After the binder, the storage unit stunt, the condo, and the family envelope drop, I figured we were done. Final score posted, buzzer sounded, fans heading for the exits. And honestly, I was okay with that. There's a strange peace in the aftershocks. In knowing you've already lost something, and yet somehow came out clearer, lighter. Like all that dead weight finally fell away. But Angela had one more round in her. It was a Wednesday, end of May. That sticky kind of spring afternoon where everything feels overcooked. Emails piling up, traffic crawling like molasses, humidity thick enough to chew. I'd just wrapped a site visit for a new HVAC install at a tech startup pretending it wasn't a WeWork clone. I stopped by the house to grab a change of clothes before hitting the gym. Her car was in the driveway. I knew that taillight scratch. Backed into a cart corral in a Kroger parking lot last winter. I stared at it longer than I should have, then walked inside. She was sitting at the kitchen table. No coffee. No drink. Hands folded. The same table where we used to eat Tuesday tacos and argue about who forgot to buy more garlic salt. I didn't say anything. Just dropped my gym bag by the door and leaned against the wall. She looked up. "You changed the curtains. They were on clearance." She nodded. "They're lighter." I waited. She wasn't here to talk about fabric. Angela sighed and looked down at her hands. "I owe you an apology." "No," I said, voice flat. "You owe me a decade." That shut her up. She bit her lip, hard, and then looked me in the eye. For once, no walls. No smug detachment. Just a woman who'd finally run out of angles. "I didn't come to get back together," she said. "Good. I didn't want the last thing between us to be you buying my dream condo, to keep it empty." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the condo you were going to shack up in with CrossFit Clint?" She flinched. "I wanted it for me," she whispered. "Not him." I tilted my head. "That's supposed to earn you points?" No, her voice was small. Just context. I stayed quiet. If she wanted to do this, she was going to have to earn every syllable. Angela took a breath. "I was miserable, Nick. And I know that doesn't justify anything. It doesn't undo the betrayal. But I was drowning." I crossed my arms. "You had options. Therapy. Conversations. Divorce. Instead, you went straight to sleeping with a guy who thinks protein powder is a personality." "I didn't want to hurt you." I laughed. Loud, sharp. "You didn't want to be seen hurting me. Big difference." She looked down again. "You always made everything so stable. Predictable. I felt like I was just drifting through routines. You were the same every day. Reliable. Steady. Those sound like compliments. Weird tone to use in a breakup." "It wasn't about you," she said quickly. "That's what I need you to hear. It wasn't something you did. It was something in me that I couldn't fix." I nodded slowly. "So, what?" "Clint was your hardware store remedy. Just slap a man on the leak and hope it stops dripping." She winced. "I know you think this is all a joke." "No," I said, standing up straighter. "I think this is a joke. You being here. Talking about context and inner wounds like you didn't blow a hole through our life and walk away whistling." Angela looked up at me. Her eyes were glassy now. "I'm sorry. I'm not." She blinked. I'm not sorry I found out. I'm not sorry I confronted you. And I'm definitely not sorry I made you squirm. Angela stood. I know. That's why I had to come. Not for forgiveness. Just to tell the truth. Too late. She nodded, picked up her purse, started to walk past me, then paused. You were a good husband, she said. Better than I deserved. I met her gaze. Yeah. And you were a better liar than I gave you credit for. Guess we both underestimated something. She left. No hug. No long looks. Just the soft click of the door. I sat down in the chair she'd just vacated. Same spot she used to grade papers, pay bills, plan fake book clubs. The silence was perfect, because there wasn't anything left to say. She got her final word, and I didn't need mine. Not anymore. It's strange what silence feels like after all the noise. Not the awkward kind. Not the kind that makes you clear your throat or reach for your phone. No, this kind is clean. Final. Like a courtroom after the verdict's read and everyone's gone home. It's what filled the house once Angela left that day. Not regret. Not relief. Just closure. The kind no one writes poems about, but it sticks with you just the same. It had been 4 weeks since our final conversation. 4 full weeks without a text, a call, a voicemail accidentally sent. She was gone, fully, quietly. She'd even Venmo'd me for the last half of her lawyer's retainer, which was honestly the most respectful thing she'd done since Columbus. That last part still gets me. Columbus. A storage unit with an air mattress and a citrus candle. If you asked me a year ago where I thought Angela would take her secrets, that wouldn't have cracked the top 100. But I guess that's the thing about betrayal. It's not grand. It's not cinematic. It's practical. Mundane. Sometimes it even smells like citrus. I sold the house 2 months later. I didn't need it anymore. Too many rooms holding too many echoes. Angela's perfume in the closet. Her books in the office. The indentations in the mattress where she used to sleep turned into little fault lines I kept rolling into by accident. And honestly, it was time for a new chapter. I'd earned it. I moved into a smaller place downtown. A 2-bedroom condo on the 10th floor with a view of the river, and a neighbor who plays soft jazz through his wall speakers every Friday at exactly 6. It's got one of those European dishwashers that doesn't make a sound and cabinets that close like you're whispering goodbye. It's the kind of place where nothing needs explaining, which is exactly what I needed. I started running again. Not to chase anything. Just to move. Get the blood pumping. Feel the ground under my feet in a way I hadn't in years. I hit the pavement every morning at 6:30 sharp. That used to be Angela's jogging time. Funny how quickly I reclaimed it. Some mornings, I think about her. Not the way you'd think. Not wistful. Just idle. Like remembering the name of a diner you used to go to before it closed. I'll think, she always hated uneven socks. Or, she used to leave the shower on for 5 minutes before getting in, said it had to wake up. And then it's gone. Like steam off glass. I don't hate her. That's the part that surprises people when they ask. I think people want betrayal to come with fire. They want you to burn your past like it personally offended you. But I don't have that in me anymore. Hate's too close to love, and I've distanced myself from both where Angela's concerned. What I have now is a sort of amused detachment. Like watching an old movie you once loved, but now recognize as overrated. You're not angry. It just doesn't move you anymore. A few mutual friends reached out. Not many. Angela and I weren't big social people. We did dinner parties when we had to, double dates when we couldn't avoid them. But for the most part, we stayed in our own little orbit. The ones who did reach out mostly said the same thing. We had no idea. Of course they didn't. Nobody ever does. Because infidelity doesn't happen in the open. It happens in the tiny cracks. The skipped kisses. The missing minutes. The fake meetings and quiet sighs. It's not a hurricane. It's a slow leak in the roof until the ceiling caves in one morning and you're holding a cereal bowl under a beam that finally gave up. I kept the binder. That surprises people, too. They ask if I burned it or trashed it or mailed it back to her like a cursed relic. Nope. It's in a drawer. Locked. Labeled closed file. Because here's the truth. I don't want to forget what happened. Not because I'm bitter, but because it taught me more than any therapy session or podcast ever could. It taught me that people don't always know why they do what they do. That love isn't armor and loyalty isn't always mutual. That sometimes the person you build a life with decides they want to live in a different house, and they don't even bother leaving the forwarding address. And it taught me something about myself. That I'm not fragile. That I can be lied to, betrayed, manipulated, and not crumble. I can stand. I can fight smart. I can walk away without shouting. And I can rebuild. I'm not dating right now. Not seriously. A few dinners. One woman who called me too composed, and another who thought HVAC sales was code for something illegal. I laughed with both of them. That's the thing. I laugh more now. Not because I'm happy all the time, but because I'm unburdened. The weight is gone. And you start to see the world differently without the weight. You notice things. Small kindnesses. The way baristas remember your order. The way old ladies nod at you when you hold a door. You start to realize that the world didn't end when the marriage did. It just opened up. The condo Angela wanted? I sold it. Made a profit, actually. Used some of it to take a trip to Montana. Rented a cabin, chopped wood, stared at the sky. No phone signal. No signal of any kind, really. Just wind and quiet and space. I think everyone should do that once. Lose something you thought you needed. Then go stare at the sky until you realize the sky was always bigger than the thing you lost. I still get mail addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Teller. Catalogs. Political flyers. It used to bug me. Now, I drop them in recycling without a thought. Just another thing that used to matter. So what happened to Angela? I don't know. Don't particularly care. I heard Clint moved to Indianapolis. Took a job managing a strip mall HVAC crew. Guess that's poetic in its own way. Angela? I hope she found whatever it was she was looking for. Whatever was worth tossing a good man and a clean life into a storage unit with a candle and an air mattress. I really do. But I'm done checking. Done waiting. Done wondering. Because this story, it ends with me. Standing. Breathing. Laughing. And turning the page. Subscribe to the channel